guys, long time no talk. It's been a long time since I have updated you guys on my life, and I feel like anytime I post something, a video, a post on Instagram, I get numerous questions asking for a life update, what's going on, and to be honest, I've been putting this off because it's going to be one of my probably most vulnerable videos that I have ever made. The reason I decided to go for it is because I kind of have a story unique from others, and since I'm big on YouTube videos, I have searched for people going through something similar, and I haven't had much luck finding any videos on this topic in particular. There's breakup videos, you know, stuff like that, but I was engaged, and I am no longer, so let's get into it. So my ex and I met about, what month is it? About 2 years ago. We met at work, and I was actually in a relationship with my first boyfriend when I met him. And you know, when my ex and I broke up, he was the one that was kind of there for me and helped me through everything. And you know, fast forward a little bit, we started dating. Sorry, I'm saying a lot. I didn't really think about what I was going to say. I wanted this to be like raw and my thoughts just as they're happening. So I don't have anything written down. I didn't have anything planned. So just roll with me. I'm going to say a lot and probably lose my train of thought, but we're just going with it. So anyways, he was just there for me during the breakup, and we started dating. You know, I fell for him pretty fast. It didn't take long to know that he was the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. You know, we felt mutual about it. He expressed it from what seemed like the first month we were dating, that he wanted to marry me, and our relationship was very easy. We didn't fight. We were best friends. I feel like we did rush things, but in my mind, when you know, you know. That was something that we always said was, you know, when you know, you know, you know, kind of the joke. But anyways, in my mind, we didn't rush. We actually got engaged on our 1-year anniversary. You know, I had looked at rings 6 months prior to that. I had a promise ring. We talked about getting engaged since the beginning of our relationship and getting married. You know, it was never something that I pushed on him. Maybe I did, you know, looking back, I probably talked about it a lot because at this point in my life, I'm 22, you know, I know that I want to get married. I want to start a family, and that's crazy to some people because a lot of people are like, heck no, I'm in my 20s, like I don't want that, but that's what I want and what I have always wanted. So, you know, even if I talked about it a lot, any relationship that I'm in at this point in my life, I want to be able to talk about that and not really have to hold it back, because if I'm not with someone that wants the same things, then there's no point in being with them, if that makes sense. You know, I'm not going to date someone that doesn't want to get married, doesn't want kids, doesn't want the same things that I want. There's no point. So even if I had talked about it a lot, you know, I don't regret that. But he wanted the same things, and, you know, I have been in other relationships. I have talked to other guys. Of course, I'm 22, like I have dated. Never have I been pursued as much as my ex pursued me. Never have I felt like someone was so sure about me, wanted to be with me, wanted to spend, you know, the rest of eternity together. I never doubted it, never for a second. And even, you know, to this day, I still am trying to put pieces together and figure out why this all happened. But we got engaged on our 1-year anniversary. He got me the most beautiful ring. We went to our favorite spot, and he proposed, and it was the best day. Sorry. Just bear with me because I'm going to be emotional. But anyways, you know, even at that point, there was no doubting it. There was no questioning whether he was the one for me. Sorry. Like I said, I wanted to put this out there because I haven't seen a lot of videos on this topic, and I'm hoping that I can help at least one person. So anyways, back to my video. I don't even remember what I was saying. There was no doubt in my mind even at this point. Obviously, you know, he proposed. It was the greatest day. And we had planned to have a summer wedding. It was about 6 months out, and we figured out where our venue was going to be. His mom and sister were amazing and helped me through the process. Had the most beautiful venue, had my dress picked out, had all the decorations picked out, everything down to a T. And everything was pretty much planned out. And I remember there was this one day, I mean, we didn't go one day without talking to each other since we started dating. There wasn't a day we didn't say I love you, didn't say good night, didn't say good morning. And there was one night where I hadn't heard from him, and I thought it was really weird. The next day, he ended up saying we needed to talk. Basically, he came over and he said he wasn't ready to get married after all, not as soon as we were. He didn't think he was ready, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into it. I ended up doing something that I'll regret probably for the rest of my life. Hopefully not something I'll dwell on, but I took my ring off and immediately regretted it. Instead of having the reassurance of him telling me to put it back on and that we were going to work through this and just postpone the wedding, he ended up taking it and leaving. And I didn't hear from him for a couple days. Didn't really talk to him for a couple weeks. It was the most hard, confusing, it was the most hard and confusing time of my life that I've been through. And you know, in my mind, we were engaged. This wasn't just a normal breakup. It wasn't like I was mad at him or anything. Instead, I encouraged him. I told him, you know, he is allowed to have these feelings. He was allowed to be scared. I still loved him. I told him I didn't resent him for calling the wedding off. You know, we had to cancel our venue. I tried selling my wedding dress. You know, I didn't hold, and I still don't hold any of that against him. But I just kind of encouraged him and told him I loved him through this, and that I wanted to work on things because I'm not one to give up, and that is a blessing and a curse because in this situation it drove me mad, just wanting to fix what was seemingly so broken already. I didn't want to give up on him. I didn't want to believe that it was really over because it was just out of the blue. There wasn't any explanation for it. It was so out of the blue. You know, I blamed myself. I didn't know what to think because it was so just, I didn't see it coming. No part of me saw it coming. I still don't understand, and I'll get into that. But we ended up getting back together. He reproposed and gave me my ring back. That was probably the happiest and yet hardest month I have ever gone through in my life. I poured everything I had into him. And looking back, I probably should have backed off a lot more because I was constantly like, are you okay? Is this what you want? You know, constantly like needing that reassurance because of what I had been through. You know, I had been broken up with, and that's not something that's easy to just forget about and push aside. So I was really hurting, all while trying to fix our relationship and make sure that he was okay, and I didn't give myself that time to heal, and to be okay with the fact that he broke up with me, because, you know, if someone breaks up with you, they're breaking up with you. Like, it's a horrible feeling. And I constantly was like needing that reassurance and not really getting it in the ways I needed to. And so it was, as I said, one of the hardest and yet happiest months because I was trying so hard to fix something that had been broken. And, you know, we had spent time apart. which was really hard for me. I mean, each day that went by, it was like, he doesn't want to talk to me. He's not telling me he misses me. And it was very hard for me. And, you know, I had to remind myself, this is a breakup. He's not supposed to be telling me he misses me. I know he still loves me. I know he still wants to be with me. He didn't mean that he wasn't ready. Like, I know he still wants to be with me. You know, the kind of things that you tell yourself when you're going through a breakup and you still love someone and still want to be with them. And I just didn't let myself give up hope. I had faith in us, and I thought that he was who God wanted me to be with. There, again, still at this point was no doubt in my mind that him and I were going to get married, and he was going to be the man I was going to spend the rest of my life with. You know, I figured this is just something he's going through, and we were going to get through it. We had plans, and I'm not going to go into them, but it basically came down to doing counseling, and this was my idea, of course. I thought we could both use it after what we had been through. It wasn't even anything crazy, you know, like I said before, we had an easy relationship. We didn't fight. There wasn't anything really big that we went through. This was the first big thing that we had gone through. And I think I did my job proving to him that I wanted to be with him, and that I would fight through anything that I could. I know that life gets hard, and relationships are not easy. So in my mind, this was just one of the things that we were going to go through, and we were going to come out stronger because of it. But to him, I think it was unmendable, and he ended up telling me, it might have been a little over a month after he re-proposed, that he wasn't in it, and he didn't want to try for us. It was a very short, unexplained breakup again, I guess. You know, he came over. We had plans to go on a little trip for the day. He came over and he ended things with me. And I know there's probably things I'm leaving out. I probably have said too much about some things. I'm trying to give you guys as much of an idea of what happened as I can without getting too in depth, in detail. But it was very unexplained, again. And here I am. I mean, it's what, July now? This happened back in May, the end of May. At that point, I ended up moving home, like almost immediately. We had the same work friends, we had the same job, so it was just too hard, and it broke me because I loved that town, I loved my friends, I loved my job, but I just knew that for my sake, I didn't want to stay there and be in the same town because, as I said before, I'm not one to give up and to not try, so I knew if I was near him, then, you know, I would be, like, I have been stronger and not reached out to him, but it would have been harder if I were in the same town. You know, I just needed to move home and be with family. I have not talked to him. We kind of went through the motions of who was going to keep the ring, and I had decided to keep it. I thought that it was mine to keep. I gave it back the first time. The second time, I decided I take engagements very seriously, as does anyone, and I figured it was my gift. He had given it to me twice, and it was mine to keep. But as time went on, and the only reason I was hanging on to it was in hopes that he would change his mind one day and want to get back together, and I didn't want to get rid of my ring. I didn't want anyone else to have it. That thought killed me. And so I decided that I didn't really want to sell it either because I didn't want to use the money toward anything. I didn't want any memory of him if I could avoid it. I wanted to earn things on my own, pay for them on my own, and, you know, some people may look at it as that's the least he can do for you. But in my mind, I didn't want anything to come from him at that point. So that was kind of an iffy subject for a while, and that was the only communication we really had. But I ended up giving it back because it was just too hard to have it. I didn't like seeing it. It was just too hard. So I ended up giving it back, and I don't regret it. So basically, that was kind of my last step in freeing myself of him, I guess you could say. Like I said, we haven't had any communication, and I don't feel like I have any questions you know, other than I still don't understand why it happened, but I don't think that he's going to have that answer for me, or at least one that's going to make me feel better, because he can't go back and take back the things he said that made me believe he wanted to be with me and want to spend the rest of his life with me. You know, there's no explanation to why something like this could have happened, why someone's feelings could have just changed. So I just feel like at this point, I don't need an explanation, if that makes sense. But I actually am moving to Colorado next month, and I'm trying to just focus on myself. It's going to take a really long time to trust someone again, because I've never trusted someone like him. And I know this is kind of repetitive, and I've said that. But it is going to take a long time to trust someone again. But I just want to give everyone out there watching a little peace of mind. You know, if you've been through something like this, if you have been through a breakup, if you're going through a breakup, it does get better. It really does. And this is still fresh. I'm still in a hard place, you know. There are still days where, like today, I cry. And, you know, it doesn't really get easier missing. Let me rephrase that. It gets easier, but you don't really stop missing someone, if that makes sense. You know, you spend every waking moment with them, that person, and you talk to them about everything. You go through life together. You make plans together, and that just doesn't go away because you broke up. So it's going to be hard, and it's going to suck sometimes. Like, it's really going to suck. But it does get better. It really does. I went through a very, very dark, hard time after this happened, blaming myself, thinking, what could I have done to help the situation? You know, why did he leave me? Why did he not want to try for us? What did I do wrong? And you can't blame yourself. It's really easy to blame yourself and to assess the situation and wonder what you could have done differently, but you can't think that way. If that person wanted to be with you, they would move mountains to be with you. And if that person loved you in all the ways that they said they loved you, all the ways you're remembering the little things they did for you, you know, flowers, dinner, just little things, you know, you're thinking back on all of those things. But if those were real, and you know, they might have been, sometimes they might have been, but if that person really, truly loved you, they wouldn't have left you. That's what it comes down to, you know, and that's what I have to remind myself, is if everything that he did and said was genuine, we would still be together. We would be married by now. Our wedding was supposed to be last month, and this would have never happened, you know, or it might have happened, but we would have worked through it, you know. And so as hard as it is to get over that person, you just have to remind yourself what you deserve. And, you know, if anything, he taught me what it's like to be treated like a princess, you know. There was no part in our relationship where I didn't feel like he loved the heck out of me. And, you know, he made me feel like a princess. And I love him for that, because I hadn't had that before him. And, you know, I still think so highly of him. And he's gonna do great things, you know. I don't dislike him. And if anything, he just taught me what it was like to really be loved. And, you know, if it's always said, but if you can love someone or be with someone who isn't the right one, imagine what it's like when it is the right one, you know. Like, I can't wait to find that person who, when we do have an argument, when we do have a hard time, is going to be by my side through it, you know, is going to get through it with me and move mountains for me, you know. So my whole point in this is, if you are going through a hard time, just remind yourself that it will get better. You know, I know God has a plan for me, and as much as I can think that I have those plans figured out, you know, I was going to get married. I was going to still live in that town. I was going to, you know, be his wife and encourage him to finish school and go for his job. And, I was going to keep working. But, that was the plan that I had made for myself. That was the plan that I made for myself, and that's the whole point. And God has a perfect plan that's so much greater than my plan. So much greater. And, you know, the fact that I'm moving next month, I have found a job that I cannot wait for. It's working at a pet lodge. Like, to me, that's the most exciting thing ever, because I've been working in coffee for like the last 5 years, and I get to work with animals every day now. They're gonna potentially pay for schooling for me to be like their groomer and everything. I can't wait. It's perfect, and it's making me so excited to move and get there and start working. Like, I'm not one that looks forward to work, but I already can't wait to get there and start working. You know, so a couple months ago, I had no idea what I was going to do. You know, my plans for my life had been completely flipped upside down. But, you know, as time went on, I realized, you know, I have this opportunity to move. I get to be around family. You know, my parents are moving, and I get to go and be with them and be with my aunts and uncles and my grandma. And I just think, as hard as it's been, it's the biggest blessing in disguise. So had you asked me, you know, a couple months ago if I thought I was going to be okay, my answer would have definitely been no, because, like I said, I was in a dark place and I wasn't doing okay. But as time goes on, it really does get better. It gets easier. You know, you're still going to have hard days. You're still going to have hard times, but you get stronger. You know, you have to do things for yourself. You have to focus on yourself and find your happiness before you can truly be happy with someone else. And I always thought that was silly, you know, but you have to put yourself first and your happiness first, you know. As scary as it is that I'm moving and starting this new job, I can't wait. Like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's a fresh start, and I'm sure somewhere down the road I'll meet, you know, a cowboy or something, and I'll get engaged again, and I'll get married, and I'll realize why this all happened in the first place. But for now, I'm just taking things day by day, and I'm healing, you know. I'm focusing on myself, and I'm healing. I don't know if this really helped anyone. I don't know if there was a point to this video, but I know that there are a lot of people that are going through breakups, and, you know, it sucks. Breakups are the worst thing in the world. You will feel like you're dying, or you want to die. They suck. There's no sugarcoating it. And when you're going through it, this doesn't help to hear, but I'm going to say it anyways. It does get better, and you will get better, you know? You will. I promise. I absolutely promise. Just make sure that you take care of yourself, you know? Eat. Don't skip a meal because you feel so sick. Like, try and get yourself to eat. Try and go for a walk or a run and exercise and just clear your mind, you know? Normally, music is my saving grace, but throughout this whole process, I've just found that getting outside and just clearing my head in silence has been incredible. Like, I can't even explain it. So just find things that help you and nourish you, and surround yourself with friends and family. I could not have done this when I was still living in that town. My roommate was like the best thing to ever happen to me, because she wouldn't let me be alone. She would constantly check up on me, you know. She knew that I was going through this hard time, and she was there for me, and that helped me so much, and I'm so thankful for her. And then coming back home, my family has just been amazing and been there for me. And just make sure you surround yourself with people, you know. There are times where you can isolate yourself and just cry the heck out. You can cry everything out, you know. Scream into your pillow. I don't care. Whatever's going to help you. But at the end of the day, you need to be with people, because they're gonna help you through it, and they're gonna help you heal, and you need that. So that's my little update for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that I helped someone. I hope to also, I keep saying I hope, but my plan is to continue YouTube, because I stopped doing that for a long time, and it's something that I really do enjoy, and it's something that I stopped for a while because people criticize it. People that don't know you criticize you, and I worry too much about what people thought. But YouTube makes me happy, and I really hope that I can start doing YouTube again. So hopefully this is not the last video from me for a while. I am moving, and life is going to be crazy, but you know, you'll see my face again soon, I promise. Okay, bye guys.